Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're actually going to skip the usual introductory roadmap we do. I really want to cast an immediate spell here and pull you straight into a very specific, deeply intimate world. We're looking at the raw, unfiltered beginnings of a creative mind. We're going to explore how the absolute chaos of youth shapes the art we eventually put out into the world.
So, picture this. I want to plunge you directly into a cozy, fire-lit room on a fiercely stormy February night. Imagine a 13-year-old girl named Emily Bird Starr, huddled in the glow of two tall white candles, just scribbling fiercely into a brand-new, glossy black notebook. Outside, the wind is howling, tearing through the trees, completely burying the world in snow. But inside, Emily feels triumphant. She writes this absolutely magnificent line looking out at the tempest. "I love a storm like this at night. I have a brain, and the storm is nothing but blind white force. Terrible, but blind." It's such a powerful image, right? It perfectly captures that intense, youthful drive to write, the feeling of human intellect and imagination pitting itself against the massive, unthinking forces of nature.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, The Young Writer's Diary. We are stepping right into the sanctuary of Emily's introspective mind, a place where she constantly wrestles with her environment, her wild ambitions, and, frankly, her rapidly growing vocabulary.
To really get Emily, you have to look at the stark contrast between her two worlds. On one hand, you have the rigid, highly practical world of the New Moon farmhouse, governed by her Aunt Elizabeth. It's a world built on strict traditions. Women wear sensible, serviceable navy blue dresses. And reading the dictionary for fun? Yeah, that's viewed with deep, deep suspicion. But on the other hand, we have Emily's boundless inner life. She dreams of owning just one dress of shot silk that shimmers like a twilight sky. She reads the dictionary for hours, hunting down magical words like haunted and mystic. And she has what her teacher calls an early Victorian obsession with using italics, simply because ordinary text just cannot contain her passion.
Because she's so heavily suppressed by her Aunt Elizabeth's well-meaning, but let's face it, emotionally sterile governance, Emily's diary acts as a crucial pressure valve. She calls it her Jimmy book, named after the cousin who sneaks the blank books to her. We've all had those moments of teenage frustration where we just need a place to vent, right? Without this notebook, Emily genuinely feels like she might literally fly into little bits from consuming her own smoke. This diary is her closest confidant. It's the one safe place for all her burning, highly combustible teenage thoughts.
Moving on to Section 2, Catching the Creative Flash. You see, Emily isn't just venting teenage frustrations here. She's nurturing a profound artistic ambition. And that brings us to the magical force driving her creative spark. And this brilliantly illustrates the most crucial artistic concept in Emily's life, using her own deeply personal words, the flash. She describes it as an experience of unearthly beauty. It's this transcendent moment where she feels as if a door is literally swung open in a wall right before her, giving her a sudden, breathtaking glimpse of heaven. It happens at the most random times, when she looks at tree shadows on the snow, or hears the wind in the pines, or just remembers tiny bright green leaves in a spruce barren. It is the elusive magic that every single artist chases.
But, raw talent and flashes of inspiration aren't quite enough on their own, which is exactly where her gruff, brilliant teacher, Mr. Carpenter, steps in. He gives her harsh but absolutely invaluable critiques. He tells her to stop spilling her words so lavishly and to learn economy and restraint. He mercilessly bans her big, ugly words like obstreperous and those archaic phrases like alas. But his most profound moral critique comes after Emily writes a brilliantly clever but incredibly cruel satirical obituary poem for a lazy town failure named Peter de Geer. Mr. Carpenter recognizes her uncanny, almost terrifying power to paint people's weaknesses, but he practically begs her to use that power mercifully.
Stung with shame, Emily actually makes a solemn vow in her diary. She writes, "My pen shall heal, not hurt. I write it in italics, early Victorian or not, because I am tremendously in earnest." This pledge? It's a massive milestone. It marks an early, incredibly defining step in Emily maturing from a clever, maybe slightly malicious child into a truly responsible, empathetic artist.
All right, Section 3, The Canvas of Blair Water. Let's pull back from the diary for a moment to examine the canvas she's actually working with. How exactly does Emily's writer's eye view her supposedly mundane surroundings?
Well, when a visiting city woman calls Blair Water a sleepy place where nothing happens, Emily is privately furious. To her watchful eye, it is bursting with rapid-fire comedy and tragedy. Just look at what she observes in the span of a few short weeks.
An unbreakable, lifelong feud erupting between a brother and sister over a single leftover donut. A grown man fleeing in sheer terror from a phantom shadow in the snow. A notoriously cheap man marching to the train station wearing a woman's hat just to save $3.49. And a wonderfully cheerful funeral where no one sniffled, mostly because the deceased explicitly forbade it. To Emily, this town isn't sleepy. It's an absolute goldmine of human behavior.
Now, what's truly staggering here is Emily's intense, almost sacrilegious ability to read the masked secrets of people's souls. Sitting in church during a suffocatingly hot July thunderstorm, she just shuts out the loud, aggressive evangelist and instead studies the faces of the congregation. She sees Elder Forsyte as a historical persecutor reveling in the threat of hell. She looks at Mrs. Bowes and literally sees a witch consumed entirely by hatred. She peeks into the soul of the seemingly docile wife of James Beatty and spots a red flame of rebellion desperate for freedom. She even sees right through the preacher's theatrics to his muggy soul. It is a staggering display of psychological insight for a 14-year-old.
Which brings us to Section 4, Leaving Childhood Behind. That very same hot July night in the church is about to drop into a rapid, highly suspenseful nightmare that will force her to leave childhood behind forever.
Let's map out the escalating suspense of this sequence because it is wild. At 10 p.m., lingering to find a dropped piece of paper, Emily is accidentally locked inside the pitch-black, echoing church all alone right as a massive thunderstorm breaks. She's battling pure panic. Around 11:30 p.m., the storm begins to pass, and she bravely decides to move, only to reach out in the pitch black and touch a huge, hairy, cold dog. Her blood just runs cold. But the true horror arrives at midnight. Mad Mr. Morrison, this tragic local figure whose mind snapped when his bride died, has slipped into the church. He begins a terrifying, relentless pursuit, feeling through the dark pews with his birthmarked, blood-red hand, hunting for his lost love. Emily plays a desperate, silent game of hide-and-seek in the dark until, miraculously, at 1 a.m., her friend Teddy, having inexplicably heard her cries from a mile away, rescues her at the porch door. To survive this ordeal, Emily wholly ceases to be a child.
Let's move on and see how this builds, because watch how quickly this terror transforms. Sitting on a flat tombstone to catch her breath, the storm clears up, the moon comes out, and an owl laughs delightfully in the pines, and Emily experiences the flash right there with Teddy. He puts his arm around her and whispers that she is the sweetest girl in the world. It is this brief, breathtaking idyll of first romance, the terrifying sweetness of adolescence blooming. But this beautiful moment is instantly, brutally shattered.
A shadow falls over them. It's Teddy's mother, Mrs. Kent, who has somehow tracked him there. And this poses a really critical question for us. What does Mrs. Kent actually want most? Emily had previously noted that Mrs. Kent has this dark, abnormal hunger that goads her night and day. Well, now we see it in action. It is a suffocating, deeply irrational jealousy. She wants to own Teddy completely, isolating him from friends, from his art, and especially from Emily. She outright accuses Emily of trying to steal her son.
So, the crucial point is, faced with this, a normal kid would have cried or run away. But Emily, fresh from facing down absolute terror in the dark, she stands her ground. With this icy, aristocratic anger, she delivers a devastatingly adult, inexorable takedown of Mrs. Kent. She says, "You are a foolish, selfish woman. You are determined to spoil his life. You won't bear a little pain for his sake. You are not a mother at all." She tells Mrs. Kent straight to her face that if she lets jealousy ruin his life, she will lose him entirely. No way a child says that.
This fierce confrontation is literally the crucible of adulthood for Emily. She leaves behind the safe, silent sanctuary of the Jimmy book. She's no longer just quietly observing the dramatic happenings of Blair Water or safely reading souls from afar. She is actively shaping reality, speaking hard, uncomfortable truths to adults, and standing her ground in the real world. She emerges from that night as a truly formidable young woman. As Emily finally goes to sleep that night, she reflects that she has grown up all at once, and she knows exactly what she's going to do. She's going to write it all down. Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought to take away from our explainer today. Think about it. How do the terrors, the profound joys, and the absolute absurdities of our own youth shape the raw material for the art, the work, and the legacy we eventually leave behind? When we capture our own storms, do we, like Emily, win a victory over something bigger than ourselves? Keep chasing your own creative flash, and we will see you next time.